Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Alcor Talks. This is Amit Singh, Alcor CEO, and it is a pleasure to be back with you for our second episode. Today, we have an exciting topic to discuss: zero trust security, the key to future proofing your organization. With cyber threats becoming more sophisticated, zero trust has become a hot topic for organizations that are looking to enhance their security posture. To help us explore this crucial subject, we have a very special guest, Geoff Langos. Geoff brings with him over 2 decades of transformative leadership experience in IT and operations. As a former global CIO and COO, he has led major initiatives in areas like AI, cybersecurity, cloud computing, and 5G, directly contributing to a 480 million revenue increase and $100 million in cost savings in the last initiative. Geoff's expertise in aligning tech with business goals makes him a true thought leader in the space. Geoff, welcome to the show. It's fantastic to have you here today.
It's great to be here, Amit. Thank you so much for that nice introduction. For those of you who might look me up afterwards, I do spell my name with a G. I'm a G Jeff. So if you do look me up by G Jeff. So I'm going to dive right in. This is a deep topic. The pedagogy that I'm going to use for this and maybe future webcasts will focus on innovative ways to really underscoring what I'm going to call how to think, not necessarily what to think. I want to help you create the change that you want by changing the way you think, because you're going to need to cross this chasm in order to make this transformational change. And I'll drive these points home throughout the discussion that we have today. So thanks again for having me, Amit.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a great starting point. So to kick things off, as you said, Geoff, could you give us a high-level overview of zero trust security, its major principles, and how is it different from traditional security models that we've seen over the last so many years?
Yeah, it's a great question, Amit. I get this asked a lot.
I'm sure.
Zero trust security is a management framework. It's not a particular technology that you buy and install.
Mhm.
There are technologies that support this, but think of it again. I'm going to try to change the way you guys think. Okay. It's a mindset change, and it assumes that every single device and every person should be treated as a threat until
Mhm.
it or they have been verified. Its principle is that every device or person is not trustworthy to access corporate data, physical areas until properly vetted. Traditional security models require software running in the background on servers, PCs, devices, looking for threats, sending alarms to your NOC or your SOC. They do not consider human behaviors or social engineering, which is a big part of this change in paradigm, this chasm that we're going to cross. And I will cover those throughout this session today.
Very interesting. And then I'm assuming, you sort of verify the devices all the time. I mean, it's like constant, not a one-time thing, and then you're sort of waiting a
It's
month
all the time. Yes.
all the time. Yeah, yeah. Great
It's a full,
explanation, Jeff. Yeah,
it's a
yeah. Go ahead.
full-time job for somebody. I mean, yeah.
Yes, for a lot of bodies. Yeah, that's true. That's a great explanation. And so, follow-up I would want to ask is, cybersecurity is evolving. I mean, just like cloud technologies today, it's evolving at a very fast pace. And so, what are you seeing as some of the latest trends and technologies in zero trust that organizations should be aware of?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll just start with the obvious one. People are bringing their own devices to work,
Right.
and they expect those devices to work on the network so that they can make themselves more productive. Um, so, and I think that corporations are generally adopting that. My
Yeah.
point that we started to talk about earlier is you need to have a cybersecurity expert, and probably multiple of them, within your company to thoroughly vet any devices that come on. So again, you assume that they are a threat. The
Yeah.
device is a threat. I don't care if it's a watch. I don't care if it's an iPhone, whatever. Just assume it's a threat, um, and make sure that it's thoroughly vetted by your internal security people. Um, One other thing that I see a lot is badges. Every employee needs to badge in and badge out every day, and they need to wear their badge in a conspicuous location all the time. It's important these days not to track what people are doing or when they're coming or going. It's just important to know who's in the building and who isn't. But even more importantly, if you see people walking around without a badge, employees should really confront those people right away and either physically bring them to security or at least notify security that someone is in. Any organization that's going to go through a penetration test is going to get these random people that walk in behind you when you walk in the front door, and you're trying to be nice, but they're hackers, they're criminals, and you gotta,
Yeah.
again, zero trust. You can't trust them. One other thing that I always recommend, and there's lots of places to do this, every person in the company should be absolutely required to take courses and pass tests on cybersecurity, social engineering, and deliberate sabotage. And this should happen on a regular basis. And the company should make this a big event. Like, not that you have to do this, you should do this because it's the right thing to do for the company. And it's all part of the zero trust solution.
Very true. So as companies sort of embark on the zero trust journeys, right? What are the most common technical challenges that they face during an implementation, right, of zero trust technologies, and how can these be mitigated?
Yeah. Implementing zero trust, again, is the mindset. It's a management framework. Um,
Yeah.
It could bring several technical challenges due to the model's really fundamental shift from traditional perimeter based security. The most common technical challenges that I see are not practicing Mesaviro. This is a Greek word meaning to divide
Hmm.
the problem space up. And it goes back to my opening remarks about think first. Like, really think about what you're trying to solve. Because
Yeah.
zero trust, again, is a framework that can be applied in many different ways. So think mezzo, this Greek word meaning to divide. So divide up the problem. Um, Another problem that I run into, legacy systems. They're usually very closed, independently
Hmm.
operated, and sometimes not very well known. Having a robust identity and access management, we call them IAM,
Hmm.
platform put into place um,
Yeah.
with all good intentions by tenacious and steadfast overachievers who may be opposed to this change. So that's not necessarily a technical challenge. That's going to be a challenge just organizationally. Another technical challenge, again, dividing up.
Hmm.
Implementing network segmentation, particularly micro segmentation, as you figure out which parts you want to attack first. Uh, this will require restructuring the network for sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
and potentially leads to a higher management overhead, and potentially more people. Another problem that I run into, implementing real-time monitoring and dealing with the enormous amounts of log information that starts to
Right.
come when you put these in place. Yeah, and then extending zero trust principles to the cloud and to hybrid environments is another technical challenge. Um, and then
Yeah.
and then one a lot of people don't think of, you're going to potentially disrupt user workflows because you're going to
Right.
be
Yep.
dismantling, moving things around in the network, um, all for the sake of security. My advice there is, again, make this like prominent, like everybody knows this is happening. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later, but management needs to proactively address these challenges, right? And
Mhm.
provide the training sessions and the why we're doing this, because these resources are already probably overworked and frustrated, and now they're trying to do something that they do every day, and now they can't do it.
They
So
can do it.
we need to be able to help the employees adjust to these changes.
Yes. Yes. Well said. Well said. Because there is change and they have to adjust. And it's really about the communication and making it prominent. I think that's a key word there. Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. So adding to this, right, when you're doing an implementation, can having a trusted IT consulting partner, I'll say like Alco, with considerable cybersecurity experience, platform experience, etc., can they make a difference in overcoming these challenges in your experience?
Yes, for sure. Using a consultative partner like Alcor will bring invaluable experience to this new security paradigm. Also, they'll provide the bandwidth um, needed to, build project plans, hold people accountable, hold team meetings to make sure that it keeps moving forward. Most security efforts get put on the back burner because they're not going to generate revenue and all this fun stuff that companies like to do. But
Yeah.
building again on my opening statement, Alcor will help companies by teaching them how to think, not what to think, but how
Hmm.
to think to
Right.
cross this liminal chasm required for this intensity of change.
Yep. Yep. No, well said. And so IAM, right, identity and access management, it plays a vital role in zero trust. How do IAM solutions enable zero trust? And what are some of the best practices by integrating them into existing systems? Because people
Yep,
do have other systems, right? But
they do.
how do you integrate them? What are the best practices there?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on this.
Uh-huh.
Identity and access management, IAM. Obviously, they just to be really clear about what they do. They control and verify who can access resources, ensuring that no entity, whether it's a user, a device, an application, a person, is trusted by default. And I'm just going to keep pushing that home. Some best practices, though, are start by consolidating all identity sources to a single centralized IAM. What I run
Yeah.
into is there are pockets of them. Um, One central place that is the source of all the applications that we have in inside the company, and then use a centralized. My approach would be use a centralized identity provider, such as a cloud access security broker, to
Mhm.
maintain consistency
Right.
across on-premise and your cloud environments whenever
Mhm.
possible, and regularly review and update access policies and privileges to reflect changing roles, changing job titles, changing job requirements, and additional security risks that are introduced into the environments, every single day. Automate
Right.
provisioning and deprovisioning to maintain least privilege access roles as roles change. And finally, conduct IAM audits and penetration testing, and broadly share the results with the company to show that this is very important to the company and why this is happening. Um, don't be afraid to show them the metrics.
Yeah.
Um, don't be afraid to think like you're increasing the awareness like crazy. Put it in the newsletters, put it on the front entrances, put it as a banner of the day on your intranet site. Um, and then when continue and this will foster continuous improvement because people are
Hmm.
going to go, well, I thought about something the other day that's related to this because it's very prominent.
Right.
Um, you'll get people that will encourage continuous process improvement, which is part of zero trust, is to
Yes.
keep that management framework up to date, and then celebrate those achievements with people.
An excellent view, Geoff. Uh, Loved how you sort of linked and brought it to, from technologies to people. You really got to look through that whole value chain. So thank you for that. That's great. So from a business perspective, what would you say are the key benefits of adopting a zero trust model, and how does it help organizations in the long term?
Yeah, yeah, and this could be another uh, webinar all in itself, but let's get
I was
started on
thinking
it.
the same.
Yeah, it's pretty big, but let me touch on the highlights of it. I mean, we all
Uh-huh.
know cyber threats are becoming really increasingly sophisticated, and um, they are now traversing obviously digital devices, but they're also traversing physical locations
Yeah.
and incorporating very creative social engineering. Adopting a zero trust model really now offers significant business benefits, such as mitigation of insider threats and proactive protection against cyber attacks versus being reactive, because everything's not trusted. So you're being very proactive and not letting anything in your network.
Mhm.
Um, It simplifies compliance and
Yeah.
physical facility regulatory audits. Everyone hates it when they hear the auditors coming, right? Zero trust really simplifies that because
Hmm.
uh, you're minimizing any threats that are coming into the organization. You have all the documentation that shows that, which was going to lead to less or hopefully zero fines for any infringements, and also any mitigate legal risks. So,
Yeah.
these are, again, some of the business reasons to do this, but it supports, it does support remote and hybrid workforces for sure,
Right.
with
Yeah.
very minimal friction. If you're using, especially if you're using single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. Um, so basically, it future-proofs your business, allowing scalability, lower total cost of ownership,
Right.
increased trust, and reputation management with your clients. Building trust with customers and partners is forward thinking and
Yep.
should be part of your pitch when you're going out and talking with customers.
That's right. And that's how you build that zero trust value chain outside or across the boundaries of organizations as well. That's yeah, and that really is what you need to reduce the risk of data breaches, especially, I mean, customers, of course, but also partners and vendors, and yeah, great
Mhm.
thought there. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point. Yes.
yeah, excellent. So, circling back to that AI discussion we were looking at earlier. So, as you look ahead, right?
Huh?
Briefly, if you can explain, and again, it can be a whole webinar in itself, but at least as a starting point, if you could explain, how do you see emerging technologies like AI and automation shaping the future of zero trust frameworks?
Yeah, it's a great question. For zero trust models to work their best, they require nearly real time access to and analysis of lots of data, tons of data. The
Yeah.
breakthroughs in the value of AI come from the tremendous processing speeds
Hmm.
that are now available, whether you put it on site or you rent them in the cloud,
Right.
as well as a massive amount of structured data coming from a centralized IAM system,
Right.
security cameras, checkpoint stations, biometric information, and people walking around and reporting any sort of suspicious activity. So properly implemented AI systems drive decision making to be nearly instantaneous because it's able really to take all that information and synthesize it. But here's a point that I want to make sure my IT friends here. This allows for way better automation and to
Right.
augment humans working in network operation centers and security operation centers, NOCs and SOCs. They're critical to zero trust implementations. Another technology to improve the future of zero trust is
Mhm.
5G wireless networking,
Yes.
which it can reliably transport up to 20 gigabits per second, very reliably at sub-millisecond speeds. And if you think about the chain or a system of putting even an IAM in place,
Right.
one little break in that chain could cause a massive, disturbance or a massive intrusion into your network. So the point of putting something like a 5G network, a wireless network in, and replacing legacy Wi-Fi routers and access points and physical wires is a subject I think that we should delve into in a future webcast. I'm certified in 5G. I know it very well. I put it in some very large companies, and I think it could really be a help. So the combination of AI, getting tons of data, getting good structured data, and
Right.
having a great network. Those are the sort of the fundamental pieces, Amit, that you need to have.
The building blocks, I completely agree. And I do think 5G is truly a game changer. I mean, the last mile of connectivity and the threats that actually come in, it's simply astounding. So totally love the framework you built, love the building blocks that you just talked about. Yeah, thank you. Excellent, excellent. And so, carrying on for businesses that are just beginning their zero trust journey,
Mhm.
right? First step, figuring it out. What's the one piece of advice you would give to them to ensure a smooth and successful implementation? Sort of
Yeah.
the next step they
Uh,
can take.
I alluded to this a little bit earlier, and
Uh-huh.
it's probably the hardest thing to do for lots of political and people don't know, just unknown reasons. You have to obtain an inventory of
Yeah,
your systems, and then a regular assessment of your people,
right.
all of them. Make a compelling technical business case
Mm,
on a
mm,
slide or two, one or two slides, right, to get going, right? This is to get going. But here's what I'm going to suggest. Start first
mhm.
with people who are going to be that aren't going to advocate for this. So get with your technology leadership, and explain the importance of why
Right,
zero trust makes sense to move from perimeter based to a zero trust model. Incorporate their inputs. Genuinely incorporate their inputs, and then jointly present the case to senior leadership, um, and other influential personnel within the companies. And
right.
then once you get that buy-in, I'm going to keep harping on this.
Yeah,
Present this company wide to show the
yeah,
importance
yeah.
of why we're doing this. There's
100%.
companies, as you know, that have gone out of business for stuff,
Yep,
for
correct.
nefarious things that have happened with employees, with systems.
Yep.
This transformation will encounter resistance at all levels of the organization. It will. Everyone needs to know the plethora of business and technical reasons why the organization is doing this, which is to cross the chasm by thinking differently, which is what Alcor and their consultants can help bring to these situations, especially when people are starting anew and they're not really sure what to do. And as I keep saying, this could be another webcast in and of itself, Amit,
Yeah, it
for the
absolutely.
future.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
getting people started on this is it's a journey, and
It
you've got
is.
to get them to think, more liminally about how they're going to break this up and what's that chasm they have to cross.
Correct. Very true. Because I kind of see that, Jeff, as moving from a corporate ownership to individual accountability. And every employee has a place. And you're living in days and times where not just not just these smartphones, but a smart bulb could bring down an organization if it's not cared for. And that's where zero trust really shines. But without really people owning up or being feeling accountable and part of that journey, it just does not happen.
Yep. And the feeling accountable piece, again, comes from lots of broadcasting, making
Yes.
sure people understand why this is important.
Yep.
And, just again, not trusting people. I mean,
Not
I could
trusting.
get hired in your organization tomorrow and pass all the tests, but I
Correct.
might be nefarious, right? So, meaning I passed all your tests, but I have nefarious thoughts for the
Intent.
future about things I'm
Right.
going to learn that I'm going to teach outside people or
Very
vulnerability,
true.
those kind of things. It's just a much bigger picture, and zero trust really draws a great framework around how to manage these risks.
I really like it. Yes, yes. Great advice, Chef. Yes. So let's shift gears a bit and learn a little bit more about your personal journey.
Sure.
And with such an impressive career,
Thank you.
what's been the most fulfilling project or moment for you? And why does
I,
it stand out? I'm sure you
I
got a
thought,
lot of those.
thank you. I do. And so what I thought is I would stick with security.
Uh-huh.
Since this is really what we're talking about. So let's stick with security. I was thrilled when I worked at Vonage and we passed our level 1 PCI certification. We were taking $1 billion of credit card transactions a year. That was
Right.
our only revenue flow.
Yeah.
And probably to a large degree, I can't say anymore, but that was our bread and butter. That was our revenue flow. And if we did not get certified, we were either going to get shut off or fined heavily. So we had to do this.
Yeah.
So back to some of the things I said earlier, getting people to think differently. It's not just a transaction. It's thinking
Right.
differently about how could this impact the company? How could this impact the customer if their cards are exposed? We hear about this all the time, right? It becomes a nightmare for them. This was a company-wide effort. I was asked to champion it. It required a lot of training up front,
Yeah.
again, to cross that chasm, to get people thinking differently about why we need to go do this. And it required me to go to the board of directors and the senior leadership all the way down and train everybody on why we had to spend the money and the time to go do this, because during this time, it took us about 7 months, really nothing else could happen.
Right.
You didn't want to introduce new vulnerabilities for ones that have already been, remediated, but virtually every other project in the company had to stop and
Yeah.
everyone had to focus on it. And look, I was very honored to lead this on Vonage's behalf, and they continue to, to be certified. So I put that as a very stressful accomplishment because it needed to be done quickly.
Yes. Excellent, excellent. And that's a great story to share. Thank you, Jeff. I'm sure that'll resonate with a lot of people.
It does. When I was going through PCI compliance stuff, it wasn't just me. I
Yeah.
had I wasn't really their CIO. Basically, I was C-level people in all kinds of different industries, airlines, trains, hotel reservations. They were all going through this at the same time. And, we all shared that pain. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do for our customers and for our company.
That's so true. Yes, yes. That brings home the point absolutely, and yeah, sounds amazing. So, Jeff, with such demanding roles, and this is a question I ask myself all the time too, but with such demanding roles, how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance? And any tips for aspiring new leaders?
I do. I do. And I think could be different for everybody. But what I do, I surround myself with excellent talent. I jointly with this team set very high expectations jointly with the team. We set the expectations for each other. Um, and then I expose this team to my peers, to senior leadership, um, so that they know that these are trusted people, just like you can trust Geoff. You can trust
Right.
these people as well. So if you can't find me and something's urgent, you can reach out to one of these people. If I need to take a week off, if they need to take a week off, um, it gives you that flexibility to really go shut down, as much as we can, um, and stops burnout, and allows you to
Right.
plan those kind of events better. Um, but what I also see is it allows the secondary effect. Allows ideas to flow more naturally because now you've got a
Correct.
bigger amount of people, right? It's not just Jeff's the guy, right? Or Amit's the guy.
Yeah.
I've got a
Yeah.
cadre of people that are trained and following me and are making these same relationships across the company. So if they're in a meeting and I'm not, and something comes up that's related to um, the zero trust, they've got someone there that they can trust, that they can talk
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Very
Um,
true. Very, very,
I
very
would
true.
also say a
Hmm.
couple other quick things.
Hmm.
Have or build a great relationship with your boss, and get her peers regularly to invite you or my peers to their staff meetings so that they
Yeah.
understand the progress that we're making. And again, it gets back to keeping this a headline, that this is
Mhm.
super important and that we're setting joint goals together and reminding each other why we're doing what each other are doing. I also suggest to get into the weeds of the business
Uh-huh.
as much as you possibly can. What do I mean by that? Go find an accountant. Sit with an accountant for a few hours. Watch what they do. Watch their inefficiencies or efficiencies. Listen to them. Go sit in the contact center. Listen to customer calls. Listen to what they're complaining about.
Right.
Watch how many different systems these agents have to flip through to be able to answer customers' questions, and look for process improvements, and suggest them, and make recommendations to senior management about how to fix these things. Because one simple little fix, in a lot of cases, can solve, 10 minutes on every single call, or can eliminate 5 accounting forms, whatever. You get the point.
I
But the
do.
main thing is that I do, and I'm sure you do this, Amit, is be a role model. Practice what you preach and live by a hierarchy of values, especially when it comes to your health, your family, and the people that you surround yourself with.
That's great advice. Thanks,
I
Geoff.
mean,
Very well said.
so you're going to give me a reaction. Your reaction to this and other people listening might be, well, this is going to add a ton of workload because now I got to go meet with all these people and go to their meetings and understand them and listen to phone calls. But building your authenticity will create a line of followers who will help you do anything because they trust you.
I agree.
And yes, it takes a little more time up front, but it pays you back later.
It does. It does. And you what you really do is you make it a part of your day. It's not something that you're doing it, once a month or once a year, but you make it a part of your day. So your team, as you said, great talent, people that you involved in your relationships, uh, it becomes easy for them to step in. It sort of becomes a communal process between you and your trusted team. You're right. That's really the only way to maintain work-life balance in today's environment when everything is 24/7. Yeah,
Yes.
well said. Great point. And so, shifting gears from to outside of work,
Okay.
what's something people would be surprised to learn about you? Any hidden talents or hobbies?
Yes. I am an avid drummer.
Ah,
I started.
all
I
right.
started. Yes, I started taking the sort of formal lessons when I was about 10 years old,
Uh-huh.
and it has always been an enormous part of my life. I still play today. I played in bands. I played at local, national levels and competed. I play now mostly for fun. It's also great exercise. Um,
Yep.
and But I think just in general, that's my exercise. Just having some sort of an exercise routine, whether it's taking a 20-minute walk, walking on a treadmill. I physically don't do any bodybuilding because as a drummer, it doesn't work so well because
It
your
doesn't. Yeah.
muscles get heavier, so it gets harder
Yes.
to move faster. So,
Yep. Yep.
again, I do it really out of just good, pure life balance, and it's fun, and I enjoy it.
Wonderful.
And I have I have a video,
Uh-huh.
a YouTube video channel. So just look up Geoff Langos, and you can see I have a bunch of videos out there of me playing with bands or by myself. And some of the odes that I have to other drummers and people are actually pretty funny if you want to read through those. But that's my hidden talent.
That's wonderful to know. That's great. Really cool. So, all right. So, Jeff, let's have some fun, right? As we reach towards the end of the this webcast, let's have some fun with a rapid fire round. If you're
Okay,
game for that,
I'm
I'll
game.
ask you. Okay. All right. Let's ask you. I'll ask you a few questions, and just share the first thing that comes to mind. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's go. A book or movie you could watch, read over and over.
I go to church every Sunday, so I read the Bible. Movie I
Uh-huh.
see over and over again, Spinal Tap. There are lots of lessons to be learned in that movie.
Awesome. Yep. Go to productivity hack.
5 hour energy.
Uh-huh. Works. Go to stress relief method.
For me, again, playing the drums, when I get really stressed out, I turn the computer off. I go sit to the drums and I play for sometimes hours. But again, it gets back to I think having some sort of an exercise routine. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
brutal, but some sort of a way to just clear your mind where there's no computers around, leave your phone at home and take a walk, go play golf, go play tennis, go do something.
Makes sense. Makes sense. One thing you wish you had learned earlier in your career.
Yes. Develop thick skin. Things that happen at work are not personal. You can have personal relationships outside of work, dinner, whatever, but develop thick skin and don't take things too personally at work.
Great, great point. Yes, great advice to a lot of budding leaders. Your biggest inspiration in tech right now.
Yes, would be following what I would call and what MIT would call the dominant designs. So there are many different types of products that are being introduced. So you see them all the time. We're going to try this. We're going to try this.
Yeah.
Eventually, you end up at a dominant design. I'll pick
Right.
on
Right.
I'll pick on Nvidia. It's a dominant
Mhm.
design now for
Yep. Yep.
AI chip makers. The same thing happened with Elon Musk with their cars. Right? They
With
come up with
cars.
dominant designs in cars.
Yep.
You can come up with dominant design in software languages. You can come up with dominant design in data centers
Mhm.
configurations. You can come up with dominant designs in zero trust security. And
Right.
I think it's an emerging topic right now. But eventually, if you read about dominant designs, they something will converge. It will converge to something that's the dominant design. There might be variants of it, but that's generally the way um, the product goes to market.
That's great. That's yes, very valuable. Thank you. So Jeff, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was
Thank you so much for sharing your insights and participating in the fun rapid fire round. I'm sure our listeners found a lot of value in today's conversation. I did.
great.
So again, thank you so much for
Oh,
for your
you're
time.
welcome, Amit. And if you're anything like you are on camera with me, I bet you have a cadre of people that follow you around, and that you're a great leader as well. And I appreciate you taking time out of your super busy schedule to cover what I think is a very important topic.
It is a very important topic, and I loved the conversation, loved the insights, and I'm pretty sure our audience found it very valuable. So thank you again. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Alcor Talks. We'll be back soon again with great discussions, and I'm sure many on zero trust security itself. Until next time, this is Amit Singh signing off. See you soon.
Alcor Talks.